How to Know Higher Worlds. Introduction. This audiobook is not just a guide, it's an invitation to transformation. Whether you are taking your first steps or refining your path, the journey to higher knowledge is lifelong and infinitely rewarding. If you believe there's more to life than what meets the eye, then this audiobook is for you. Based on How to Know Higher Worlds, this audiobook distills the profound teachings of one of the most influential spiritual thinkers of the modern age. Steiner's work serves as a roadmap for those seeking to awaken their inner faculties and perceive realities beyond the physical world. There are moments in life when we feel an unexplainable pull, an inner knowing that there is something beyond the ordinary. Perhaps you've looked up at the stars and sensed an unseen presence, or you've experienced a deep connection to nature that defied words. Maybe you've had a dream so vivid, so profound, that it felt like a message from another realm. In these moments, something stirs within you, a quiet whisper suggesting that reality is far richer, far deeper than what we perceive with our physical senses. That whisper is the voice of your higher self, the part of you that remembers there is more to existence than the material world. It is a call, an invitation, to embark on a journey of discovery. This audiobook, drawn from Steiner's teachings, offers guidance on that path, helping you cultivate spiritual perception, deepen self-awareness, and unlock the hidden dimensions of reality. Hidden within each of us are faculties that lie dormant, waiting to be awakened. Just as the eyes allow us to see the physical world and the ears allow us to hear a sound, there are spiritual senses within us that, when developed, reveal entire dimensions of existence we never knew were there. These senses are not reserved for a select few. They are part of our human potential, accessible to anyone willing to cultivate them. For centuries, mystics and seekers across different cultures have spoken of the same truth. Beyond the veil of the visible world lies a realm of wisdom, energy, and higher intelligence. Some have called it the spiritual world, others the astral plane, and still others the realm of higher consciousness. No matter the name, the reality remains the same. There is an unseen world, and you have the ability to access it. How does one move from merely suspecting that there is something more to actually experiencing it? The answer lies in a path, a methodical, transformative process that has been followed by countless seekers before you. This knowledge is your guide. It is not a collection of vague philosophies or abstract ideas, but a practical, structured roadmap for unlocking your higher faculties. You will learn how to prepare your mind and soul for higher knowledge, how to develop spiritual perception, and how to safely navigate the path of initiation. The journey to higher worlds is not about escaping reality, it is about deepening your experience of it. As you awaken your spiritual senses, you will not only perceive new dimensions of existence, but also gain profound insight into your everyday life. You will discover inner strength, clarity, and wisdom that will transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. This is not just a book, it is an invitation, a call to step beyond the ordinary and embrace the extraordinary potential within you. Are you ready to begin? Chapter 1. The Hidden Potential Within You. Have you ever sensed that reality is far greater than what your eyes can see, that beyond the physical world lies an unseen dimension waiting to be explored? Perhaps you've felt a fleeting intuition, a moment of profound clarity, or a dream so vivid that it seemed more real than waking life. These glimpses into the hidden fabric of existence are not mere illusions. They are invitations, subtle calls from the depths of your own being, urging you to awaken to a higher knowledge that has always been within you. The ability to perceive beyond the physical world is not a gift reserved for a select few, nor is it a supernatural power bestowed upon the chosen. It is an inherent faculty of the human soul, as natural as sight and sound, yet lying dormant in most people. Just as a child is born with the potential to walk, speak, and think critically, but must develop these skills over time, so too does every individual possess the capacity to awaken spiritual perception. It is not a question of whether you are capable. It is only a matter of whether you are willing to embark on the journey of discovery. Throughout history, mystics, sages, and seekers have walked this path, proving that the unseen world is not a fantasy, but a tangible reality, accessible to those who earnestly seek it. In ancient Egypt, the temple initiates underwent rigorous spiritual training, learning to detach from their physical senses so they could perceive the deeper truths of existence. The yogis of India, through years of meditation and self-discipline, unlocked profound wisdom, achieving states of consciousness beyond ordinary human experience. The Sufi mystics of Persia danced and chanted their way into divine ecstasy, touching realms where time and space dissolved into pure presence. Even in the modern era, individuals who have dedicated themselves to the path of inner awakening report experiences of expanded awareness, visions of luminous beings, insights into the nature of the cosmos, and encounters with a divine intelligence that transcends human understanding. Yet these experiences were not handed to them freely. They did not stumble upon higher knowledge by accident, nor did it descend upon them without effort. Each one of these seekers, regardless of their cultural background or spiritual tradition, had one thing in common. They walked the path with unwavering dedication. They cultivated the necessary inner conditions, purity of thought, strength of will, and a burning desire for truth that allowed them to perceive what others could not. Spiritual awakening is not a passive event. It does not come through mere belief or blind faith. It is an active process, a conscious effort to refine the self and sharpen the inner faculties. Just as an artist must train their hand to paint with precision, just as a musician must discipline their ears to recognize the subtlest notes, so too must the seeker of higher worlds train their soul to perceive beyond the physical. This training is not about acquiring something new, but rather about removing the layers of distraction, doubt, and material conditioning that have clouded your vision for so long. The physical world, with all its demands and noise, acts as a veil, keeping you bound to the surface of existence. It pulls your attention outward, enticing you with fleeting pleasures and endless distractions. But if you have ever felt an inner emptiness, even in the midst of worldly success, if you have ever longed for something beyond the routine of daily life, then you have already begun to hear the call of higher knowledge. That restlessness, that sense of something missing, is not a flaw. It is the first stirring of your deeper self, urging you to turn inward and reclaim what has always been yours. The journey to unlocking this hidden potential does not require abandoning the world or retreating to a distant monastery. It begins where you are, in the life you are living now. The tools are not foreign or inaccessible. They are already within you, waiting to be refined. Your thoughts, when directed with purpose, become bridges to higher understanding. Your emotions, when purified and elevated, become gateways to spiritual perception. Your will, when strengthened and disciplined, becomes the force that propels you beyond the ordinary into the extraordinary. There is no barrier between you and higher knowledge, except the ones you have accepted as real. The belief that such perception is impossible, the doubt that you are not capable, the fear that you will fail, these are the only chains keeping you bound to the limits of the physical world. But the moment you choose to believe that your spiritual faculties are as real as your physical senses, the moment you commit yourself to develop them with the same dedication that you would any other skill, the doors to higher worlds begin to open. You are not separate from the mysteries of existence. You are not an outsider looking in, hoping for a glimpse of something greater. You are already a part of the vast, intricate web of spiritual reality. You have simply forgotten how to see it. The mystics and sages who came before you were not different from you. They simply remembered what you have yet to uncover. And just as they walked the path to higher knowledge, so too can you. The question is not whether the path exists. It has always been there, waiting for those who seek it with sincerity. The question is whether you will take the first step. Chapter 2. The Power of Reverence and Devotion. There is a force within the human soul that, when properly cultivated, opens the gates to higher knowledge. It is not intellect, nor is it ambition or the accumulation of facts. It is something far more subtle yet infinitely more powerful: reverence. The ability to approach life with deep respect, admiration, and humility is not merely a virtue. It is a key. It transforms the soul, making it receptive to the wisdom that flows through the hidden currents of existence. Reverence is not a passive sentiment, but an active force. It is a way of aligning oneself with the greater mysteries of life, an attitude that shifts perception from the mundane to the miraculous. When one looks upon the world with reverence, ordinary things become extraordinary. A simple sunrise, once taken for granted, reveals itself as a divine spectacle of color and light. The rustling of leaves in the wind becomes a whispered message from nature. The gaze of another person, once dismissed as fleeting, is now seen as a gateway into the depths of another soul. Humility is the companion of reverence. It is the recognition that wisdom is not something we seize or conquer, but something we receive when we make ourselves worthy. The great teachers of humanity did not attain enlightenment through arrogance or self-importance. They knelt before the infinite, acknowledging that they were but seekers in a vast, mysterious cosmos. To believe that one already knows all there is to know is to close the door to higher truths. But to approach life as a student, with an open heart and a willing spirit, is to invite the universe to reveal its secrets. The practice of reverence must be woven into daily life. It is not enough to feel awe in rare moments of beauty or crisis. One must train the soul to live in a constant state of gratitude and wonder. The most powerful spiritual transformations do not come through grand revelations, but through the quiet, consistent practice of seeing the sacred in the smallest details. A single moment of genuine appreciation for the warmth of sunlight on the skin, for the laughter of a child, for the taste of water on a dry tongue, can shift the soul's orientation toward the divine. Gratitude is the gateway to higher perception. When one begins to acknowledge the gifts that life offers in every moment, a profound change occurs. The soul expands, becoming more attuned to the subtle energies that move through existence. The unseen world does not reveal itself to those who are blind to the blessings of the seen world. One who cannot appreciate the miracle of a flower blooming before their eyes will not perceive the unfolding of spiritual realities within their soul. True seekers of wisdom cultivate an unshakable sense of devotion, not to an external authority, but to the pursuit of truth itself. This devotion is not about blind obedience, but about deep, unwavering love for the mystery of existence. It is the willingness to surrender personal pride, to stand in awe before the grandeur of life, and to listen, to truly listen, to the wisdom that speaks in the silence of the heart. Every day offers opportunities to practice reverence. A morning spent in quiet reflection, acknowledging the gift of another day, strengthens the soul's capacity for higher knowledge. A simple act of kindness, given with genuine respect for another being, refines the inner senses. The way one speaks, the way one listens, the way one walks upon the earth, each of these can become an expression of devotion, and in this devotion, a transformation takes place. The soul, once restless and distracted, becomes still. In that stillness, the doors to higher worlds begin to open. Reverence is not an antiquated virtue, it is a living force. It is the very soil in which the seeds of wisdom take root. Without it, knowledge remains hollow, mere words without meaning. But with it, knowledge becomes illumination, a light that guides the seeker beyond the physical into the infinite. And those who walk this path with reverence will find that one day, the universe itself bows in return, offering them the treasures of its deepest truths. Chapter 3. Developing Inner Stillness. The world is loud. It fills every moment with distractions, with voices demanding attention, with fleeting desires that pull the mind in 100 different directions. Thoughts race, emotions surge, and life moves at an unrelenting pace. In this chaos, the voice of higher wisdom is drowned out, not because it is silent, but because it speaks in whispers, in currents too subtle for a restless mind to grasp. The great mystery of spiritual perception is not hidden from us. It is simply waiting for us to become still enough to hear it. True knowledge is not found in the noise of the world, but in the quiet depths of the self. Those who seek to perceive beyond the physical must first learn to cultivate inner stillness. Just as a pond cannot reflect the sky when its waters are disturbed, the soul cannot reflect higher truths when it is turbulent with thoughts, anxieties, and unchecked emotions. To see clearly, one must first become calm. To hear the wisdom that flows from the spiritual world, one must first silence the endless chatter of the mind. Meditation is the path to this stillness. It is not an escape from reality, nor is it a mystical indulgence. It is the training of the soul to perceive without distortion. It is a way of attuning oneself to the deeper rhythms of existence, of refining the inner senses, so that they may awaken to the truths that have always been present but unnoticed. Meditation is the art of presence, the discipline of bringing one's awareness fully into the moment, free from the distractions of past regrets and future anxieties. For the beginner, the journey into meditation begins with a simple yet profound practice: conscious breathing. The breath is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. It is both automatic and voluntary, existing between the realms of the unconscious and the conscious mind. By learning to control it, to slow it, to become aware of it, one begins to train the mind in the art of focus. Sitting in a quiet place, the seeker closes their eyes and turns their attention inward, following the breath as it flows in and out. Nothing else matters at this moment, only the breath, steady and calm. As the body relaxes, the mind, too, begins to settle, thoughts that once raced slow to a gentle drift. The noise of the world fades. With time and practice, this stillness deepens. The seeker begins to observe the inner landscape, to notice thoughts and emotions without becoming entangled in them. Like clouds passing through the sky, they come and go, but the observer remains still. It is here in this silence that something new begins to emerge, an awareness beyond thought, a presence beyond emotion. This is the gateway to true spiritual perception. However, there are obstacles in the way. Untrained in silence, the mind will fight. It will cling to distractions, fabricate delusions, and arouse attention-seeking emotions. The ego will attempt to reintroduce unrest in the seeker out of dread of its own quieting. Patience must be developed during these times, since genuine meditation is attained via surrender rather than coercion. The intention is to allow thoughts to flow without attachment, not to repress them. The goal is to learn to differentiate between feelings that come from the depths of the soul and those that are transient, not to eradicate them. This distinction is crucial, for the path to higher knowledge requires discernment. Not every feeling is intuition, not every thought is wisdom. The restless mind is filled with illusions, with desires masquerading as truths, with fears disguised as insights. But deep intuition, the kind that leads to genuine spiritual perception, does not come with urgency or anxiety. It arises in stillness, in a place beyond the grasping of the mind. It is subtle, yet unshakable. It does not shout, but when it speaks, it resonates with a certainty that cannot be ignored. Through meditation and self-reflection, the seeker begins to recognize this voice. They learn to listen, not with the ears, but with the soul. They develop an awareness that extends beyond the immediate, that perceives connections, energies, and truths that are invisible to the untrained mind. The physical world begins to appear different, not because it has changed, but because they have. Colors seem richer, sound deeper, and encounter more meaningfully. The hidden dimensions of life begin to reveal themselves, not in flashes of supernatural vision, but in the quiet, knowing that permeates every moment. The world does not become less real through meditation. It becomes more real. The noise does not disappear, but it loses its hold. Emotions do not vanish, but they no longer dictate one's actions. The seeker moves through life with greater clarity, with a sense of purpose that is no longer clouded by distraction. And as this clarity deepens, as the inner stillness becomes second nature, the higher worlds open, not as a distant dream, but as an ever-present reality. This is the power of inner stillness. It is not merely a practice, it is a transformation. It is the first step towards seeing, hearing, and knowing in a way that transcends the limits of the physical senses. Those who master it do not merely learn about higher knowledge, they become it. And in that becoming, the mysteries of existence unfold before them, revealing the infinite wisdom that has always been waiting in the silence. Chapter 4. Awakening Spiritual Perception. There is a hidden rhythm in the world, a great pulse that moves through all of life. It is the same force that causes the seed to break through the soil, the tree to stretch toward the sky, and the leaves to wither and fall with the changing seasons. It is the breath of existence, the ceaseless cycle of birth, growth, decay, and renewal. Though we move through these cycles every day, most people remain unaware of the deeper reality they conceal. But for those who seek higher knowledge, these rhythms are not just natural phenomena. They are the living language of the spiritual world, speaking through the very fabric of life itself. To awaken spiritual perception, one must learn to see beyond the surface of things. A flower is not merely a flower, it is an expression of an unseen force, a momentary manifestation of a life principle that existed before the seed was planted and will continue long after the petals have faded. A dying leaf is not just an end. It is a transformation, a passage into something new. The secret to perceiving higher realities lies in understanding that nothing in the world is isolated. Every living thing carries within it the imprint of the spiritual forces that sustain it. By observing these natural cycles with heightened awareness, the seeker begins to develop an inner vision, a way of seeing that is not bound by the physical eyes. This vision does not come in a flash, nor is it granted by chance. It must be cultivated, just as a musician must train their ear to hear the subtlest notes in a symphony. The first step is learning to look at nature with reverence, to approach even the simplest blade of grass with the same wonder one might feel before a great work of art. A rose is not beautiful simply because of its color or form, but because it carries within it the mystery of life unfolding, a force that extends beyond what is visible. There is a practice, simple yet profound, that strengthens this inner sight. Find a place in nature where you will not be disturbed, a quiet park, a garden, or even a single plant on a windowsill. Observe a living thing in front of you. Do not rush. Let your gaze rest upon it, not as an object, but as a being. Allow yourself to feel the energy that sustains it, the invisible current of life that flows through its roots, stems, and leaves. Then turn your attention inward. Sense what this encounter stirs within you. Does it awaken a feeling of calm, of quiet admiration, or of something deeper, something unspoken? Stay with this feeling. Let it expand. In that moment of silent attention, you are beginning to perceive with more than your physical senses. You are sensing the life force itself. Equally important is the practice of observing decay, not with sorrow, but with understanding. A fallen leaf is not a sign of loss, but of transformation. The tree does not mourn the shedding of its leaves. It releases them, knowing that in their decay, they will nourish the soil for future growth. When the seeker contemplates this process with awareness, they begin to feel the truth that all things are in motion, that life and death are but two phases of the same eternal cycle. And when this truth is deeply felt, fear dissolves. The transience of things no longer appears as an end, but as part of a vast, intelligent design. Over time, this awareness sharpens. The world that once seemed static and ordinary becomes alive with meaning. A dying tree speaks of renewal, a blooming flower of unseen energies at work. The seeker begins to feel the presence of the spiritual within the material, to recognize that behind every visible thing there is an invisible force shaping it. This is the foundation of spiritual perception, not the ability to see visions or hear voices, but the deep knowing that life is far more than what it appears to be. It is the realization that the physical world is only the outer garment of something infinitely greater, something waiting to be seen by those with eyes to see. Through patience and practice, the seeker comes to understand that they too are part of this great rhythm. Just as nature moves through cycles of growth and transformation, so does the soul. Every challenge, every sorrow, every joy is part of an unfolding process, guiding the individual toward greater wisdom. And as this understanding deepens, so too does the ability to perceive the unseen. The seeker no longer moves blindly through life, but with awareness, attuned to the subtle forces that shape the world and the self. To awaken spiritual perception is to awaken to the living reality of existence. It is to see not with the eyes alone, but with the soul. And when that vision is clear, the world is no longer just a collection of objects and events. It is a sacred text, a revelation written in the language of life itself, waiting to be read. Chapter 5. Hearing the Language of the Soul. In the ceaseless motion of life, sound surrounds us like an ever-present current. The rustling of leaves, the distant murmur of a river, the hum of conversation, the whisper of the wind. These are more than mere noises. They are messages, fragments of a deeper language that most pass by without noticing. Yet, beneath this tapestry of sound, there is also silence, vast and immeasurable, where an even greater wisdom speaks. To hear the language of the soul, one must learn to listen, not just with the ears, but with the heart, the mind, and the deepest part of one's being. Beyond the actual vibration of sound, there is a mystery about it. Every word has a force, a live energy that molds the listener's spirit. While a kind voice can comfort even the most broken soul, a harsh remark can pierce deeper than a blade. Speech serves as both a creative power and a conduit between the inner and outward worlds in this invisible realm. This was recognized by the ancient sages, who taught that the capacity to discern higher wisdom depends on one's speech pattern, the meaning of each word, and one's capacity for attentive listening. But just as sound holds power, so too does silence. The modern world fears silence, filling every empty space with noise, endless chatter, and distractions. Yet silence is not emptiness. It is the wellspring from which true understanding arises. In silence, the soul is no longer bombarded by external forces and is free to perceive the finer currents of existence. The subtle voices of intuition, the guidance of higher realms, and the hidden wisdom of life itself reveal themselves only when one learns to embrace stillness. To listen without judgment is one of the greatest disciplines on the spiritual path. When another speaks, most do not truly hear. They react, interpret, compare, or form responses before the words have even settled in their minds. But the seeker of higher knowledge must cultivate a different kind of listening, one that does not seek to impose, to agree or disagree, but simply to understand. In this state of receptive awareness, words are no longer just sounds. They become windows into the soul of the speaker, revealing emotions, thoughts, and energies that go beyond what is spoken aloud. There is a profound technique in spiritual training, the practice of listening to the world without internal commentary. One sits in a quiet place and allows all sounds, near and distant, to wash over them. The chirping of birds, the laughter of strangers, the creaking of an old wooden door. None are judged or analyzed. They are simply received as they are without interference. In this practice, something remarkable happens. The listener begins to hear beyond the sounds themselves, sensing the essence behind them. The hidden harmony of life emerges, revealing a rhythm and order that was always present but previously unnoticed. Even more subtle is the practice of listening inwardly. Beneath the constant dialogue of thoughts, beneath the emotions that rise and fall like waves, there is a voice that speaks in the language of the soul. It is not heard with the ears, but felt with an inner knowing. Some call it intuition, others divine guidance. It is the same force that has whispered to mystics and seekers throughout history, guiding them toward truth. But this voice is quiet and easily drowned out by the noise of daily life. To truly hear it, one must cultivate moments of profound stillness, allowing the mind to settle and the deeper self to speak. In advanced spiritual training, sound is used as a tool to attune the soul to higher frequencies of consciousness. Chanting, sacred music, or even the simple repetition of a meaningful phrase can align the individual with the vibrations of the unseen world. Many traditions teach that the universe itself was born from sound, from a primordial resonance that continues to echo through all creation. Those who learn to harmonize with this cosmic rhythm find themselves drawn into states of heightened awareness, where the barriers between the physical and spiritual dissolve. But the highest form of inner hearing comes when sound and silence merge, when one no longer distinguishes between the two, but recognizes them as part of the same great symphony. In this state, the seeker does not merely listen, they become listening itself. Every sound is meaningful, every silence is filled with presence. The soul no longer strains to hear wisdom from above. It realizes that wisdom has always been speaking, in every moment, in every breath, waiting for the world to become quiet enough to hear. To hear the language of the soul is to awaken to a deeper reality, one where sound is not just vibration but revelation, where silence is not absence but the voice of the infinite. Those who master this art find that life itself begins to communicate in ways they never imagined. The rustling leaves, the rhythm of the waves, the voice of a stranger, all become part of a great, unbroken dialogue between the seen and the unseen. And in that dialogue, the mysteries of existence unfold, whispering the secrets of higher worlds to those who have learned to listen. Chapter 6. The Transformative Power of Thought. Thoughts are not passive. They are not fleeting impressions that simply arise and vanish without consequence. They are living forces, shaping reality in ways seen and unseen, creating the very world in which we live. Every thought we think carries energy, radiating out beyond the limits of the mind, influencing not only our own lives, but the lives of others. Whether we recognize it or not, our inner world of thought is constantly molding our outer world of experience. The great spiritual traditions of the world have long understood this truth. Mystics, sages, and initiates across cultures have spoken of the immense power contained within a single thought. They have warned of the dangers of uncontrolled thinking, of minds filled with chaotic, negative, or selfish impulses. Just as water shapes the land over time, our habitual thoughts carve pathways in our consciousness, determining the course of our destiny. To think is to create, and to create unconsciously, without direction or awareness, is to allow one's life to be shaped by forces outside of one's control. To take command of one's thoughts is to take command of one's reality, but this is no easy task. The mind, left untended, is like an overgrown garden, wild, tangled, filled with weeds that choke out the potential for growth. Just as a gardener must carefully choose which plants to nurture and which to remove, so too must we cultivate the thoughts that uplift and strengthen us while uprooting those that weaken and distort our perception of truth. The seeker of higher knowledge must begin by recognizing that thoughts are not idle. They are seeds, and every seed bears fruit. A moment of resentment, left unchecked, can take root and grow into a lifetime of bitterness. A single impulse of generosity, when nurtured, can blossom into boundless compassion. Training the mind to generate uplifting and powerful ideas requires discipline. It is not enough to simply wish for positive thoughts to arise. They must be deliberately chosen, shaped, and reinforced. Each morning offers a new opportunity to direct the mind with intention. Upon waking before the distractions of the world rush in, the seeker should take a moment to establish a guiding thought for the day, a thought of purpose, of gratitude, of clarity. By holding this thought firmly, by returning to it throughout the day, it becomes a center of stability, a light that keeps the mind from drifting into confusion or negativity. But beyond merely generating positive thoughts, the true path to transformation lies in the purification of thought itself. The mind, like a mirror, reflects whatever passes before it. If it is clouded with unchecked desires, restless anxieties, or selfish ambitions, it cannot accurately reflect the truth. Higher knowledge does not descend upon a mind that is cluttered. It reveals itself only when the mind is made clear, calm, and receptive. The seeker must learn to observe their thoughts as they arise, to witness them without attachment, and to recognize those that come from the lower nature versus those that come from the higher self. This purification process requires deep self-honesty. It is not enough to suppress negative thoughts or to replace them with pleasant illusions. One must go to the root, asking, what is the source of this thought? Does it arise from fear, from ego, from selfishness, or does it carry the light of wisdom, of love, of truth? The answers to these questions reveal much about the state of one's inner world. A mind ruled by lower impulses cannot perceive higher realities any more than a stormy sea can reflect the light of the stars. Yet for those who persist in this work, something extraordinary happens. As the mind becomes purified, as negative and limiting thoughts are dissolved, a new kind of thinking emerges, one that is no longer bound by personal desires, but is in harmony with the greater intelligence of the universe. Insights begin to arise not from effort, but from stillness. Solutions present themselves without struggle. The seeker begins to think with clarity, depth, with vision. In this state, thought itself becomes a bridge to higher knowledge. The truths that once seemed distant, abstract, or unreachable now reveal themselves with startling clarity. The seeker understands, not just intellectually, but experientially, that the mind is not separate from the world. It is a force within it, and by mastering that force, one masters the self. To transform one's thoughts is to transform one's life. It is to step out of the realm of unconscious reaction and into the realm of conscious creation. Those who undertake this path do not simply think differently, they become different. And in that becoming, they draw closer to the infinite wisdom that has always been waiting, just beyond the veil of the mind. Chapter 7. Facing the Guardian of the Threshold. There comes a moment on the path of spiritual awakening when the seeker stands at the edge of a great divide. On one side lies the familiar world, the realm of ordinary perception, where life is governed by the senses, habits, and unconscious thought patterns. On the other side lies the vast and luminous reality of higher knowledge, a world where truth is unveiled, where the deeper currents of existence are no longer hidden behind the veil of illusion. But between these two realms stands a being unlike any other, the guardian of the threshold. This is not a guardian in the ordinary sense, nor is it an enemy to be overcome. It is rather a mirror, reflecting back to the seeker the full weight of their own inner being. Everything that has been buried, every unresolved fear, every doubt, every illusion, these now rise before the aspirant in undeniable clarity. It is not some external force that tests the seeker, but the seeker's own self, revealed in its truest form. The guardian appears when the individual has reached a certain stage of inner development, when they have begun to awaken faculties that allow them to perceive beyond the material world. At this threshold, the seeker must prove their readiness, not through strength or intellect, but through purity of heart and clarity of mind. The obstacles that arise at this stage are not random challenges, but precise reflections of what remains within the soul that is unprepared for higher wisdom. The fears that surface are the fears that have always lived in the depths of the subconscious. The doubts that echo are the same doubts that have lingered unspoken in the mind. The illusions that cloud perception are the very illusions that have shaped one's experience of life. To stand before the guardian unprepared is to risk being overwhelmed by these forces. Many who reach this stage turn back, unable to face what lies within. They may have longed for spiritual insight, but they have not yet confronted the barriers within themselves that prevent them from seeing clearly. The journey toward higher knowledge is not one of mere intellectual pursuit. It demands transformation. It requires that the seeker cleanse themselves of all that is unworthy, all that is selfish, all that is false. Self-purification is not a matter of moral judgment. It is a necessity. Just as a traveler must remove their burdens before ascending a great mountain, so too must the seeker release the weight of unexamined fears, desires, and attachments before crossing into higher realms. One cannot carry resentment and expect to see the truth clearly. One cannot cling to deception and hope to perceive reality as it is. The guardian does not prevent passage out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Until the soul is light enough to pass through, the door remains closed. The way to face the guardian is through unwavering self-honesty. The seeker must be willing to see themselves as they truly are, not as they wish to be. Every weakness, every shadow, every hidden corner of the mind must be brought into the light of awareness. This is not an easy task, for the ego resists such revelations. It clings to its false sense of self, to its carefully constructed identity, to its justifications and defenses. But the seeker who truly desires higher wisdom must be willing to dismantle these illusions. Fear is the first great test. The guardian will reveal to the seeker their deepest anxieties, the things they have spent a lifetime avoiding. These fears are not arbitrary. They are precisely the fears that have shaped the seeker's choices, the unseen forces that have influenced every step on the path. To pass beyond this threshold, the seeker must not run from these fears, but confront them directly. They must ask, "What is this fear teaching me? What truth have I refused to see?" Doubt follows closely behind. The guardian whispers the most piercing questions. Are you truly ready? Do you truly believe? Every insecurity is amplified, every hesitation brought to the surface. If the seeker is to continue, they must find within themselves a certainty that is unshakable, not blind faith, but a knowing that has been tested, a clarity that does not waver in the face of uncertainty. Then come the illusions, the last and most deceptive obstacles. These are the falsehoods the seeker has unknowingly accepted, the distortions of truth that have shaped their understanding of reality. They may appear as enticing visions, as grandiose beliefs, as subtle manipulations of perception. The challenge here is discernment, to distinguish between what is real and what is merely a reflection of the seeker's own desires and expectations. Those who fail this test may fall into spiritual deception, mistaking their illusions for truth, wandering lost in a world of their own making. But those who pass through, who face the guardian with courage and honesty, emerge transformed. They do not conquer the guardian, they integrate it. They recognize that it was never an enemy but a necessary gatekeeper, a force ensuring that only those who are truly prepared may step into higher wisdom. Beyond this threshold, perception changes. The world is no longer seen through the lens of fear, doubt, or illusion. The seeker understands that they have always been connected to the greater spiritual reality, that the journey was not about acquiring something new, but about removing the barriers that prevented them from seeing clearly. They walk forward, not as mere seekers, but as awakened souls, ready to receive the knowledge that has been waiting for them all along. Chapter 8. Achieving Continuity of Consciousness. For most, consciousness is like a flickering flame, burning brightly during waking hours, only to dim into obscurity when sleep takes hold. Dreams come and go, strange, disjointed, filled with half-remembered images that dissolve with the morning light. Yet for the one who walks the path of higher knowledge, this fragmented existence is not enough. True spiritual awakening requires continuity of consciousness, the ability to remain aware beyond the borders of waking and sleeping, to weave the threads of existence into a seamless tapestry where the physical and the spiritual become one. As the seeker progresses, the nature of dreams begins to change. No longer are they mere echoes of daily life, chaotic reflections of thoughts and experiences that rise and fall without meaning. Instead, they take on clarity and depth, revealing insights that extend beyond personal memories into something greater. What once seemed like random visions now carry purpose, offering glimpses into realms unseen, into truths that whisper from beyond the material world. The spiritual aspirant begins to recognize that sleep is not an unconscious void, but a passageway, a state in which the soul is freed from the physical body and moves through higher dimensions of existence. Yet without training, these journeys remain hidden from waking memory. The key to unlocking them lies in strengthening the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious mind. The average person experiences sleep as a break in awareness, a descent into forgetfulness. But those who cultivate spiritual perception find that over time, their awareness does not vanish when sleep begins. It simply shifts, crossing the threshold from one state of being to another. They awaken in the morning, not with fragmented recollections of the night, but with a sense of continuity, as if their consciousness had remained unbroken, moving fluidly between worlds. Developing this awareness requires inner discipline. The seeker must first observe the nature of their own thought life, for the quality of thoughts during the day shapes the clarity of perception at night. Impulses, distractions, and restless emotions cloud the mind, making it difficult to retain awareness beyond waking life. But when the mind is trained, when it is stilled, purified, and directed toward higher realities, it becomes a vessel capable of holding the delicate impressions of the spiritual world. One effective technique in this training is the practice of introspection. Before going to bed at the conclusion of each day, The seeker should calmly and detachedly reflect on their experiences, not as a participant but as an observer. Every encounter and every experience should be remembered objectively, as though one were witnessing the development of a narrative. By strengthening the connection between waking and sleeping and increasing self-awareness, this small action enables the conscious mind to remain active throughout the night. This practice eventually results in a profound realization. The self that travels through the dream world is the same self that moves through waking life. Only distinct states of perception exist. There is no actual separation. As this continuity strengthens, dreams become more than fleeting illusions. They become experiences as vivid and meaningful as those in the waking world. The seeker may encounter beings who impart wisdom, symbols that reveal truths, and landscapes that exist beyond earthly reality. Some dreams may carry personal significance, guiding the seeker toward a greater understanding of their own inner world. Others may lift the veil on cosmic mysteries, granting access to knowledge that cannot be learned through ordinary means. The highest stage of continuity of consciousness comes when the seeker awakens within the dream itself, fully aware and fully present. This is not the same as ordinary lucid dreaming, where the dreamer merely realizes they are dreaming. This awakening is deeper. It is the recognition that the dream world is not separate from reality and that the soul's experiences during sleep are as real as those in the physical body. In this state, the seeker moves freely between worlds, no longer bound by the limits of time and space, no longer confined to the illusions of the material mind. With this expanded awareness, fear dissolves. Death itself no longer holds its shadow, for the seeker knows that consciousness does not end when the body sleeps, nor does it end when life itself fades. The same thread of awareness that weaves through dreams also weaves through lifetimes, carrying the soul through the great cycles of existence. Achieving continuity of consciousness is not simply about remembering dreams, it is about awakening to the eternal nature of the self. It is about realizing that awareness is not confined to the boundaries of waking and sleeping, but extends into the vast expanse of spiritual reality. The seeker who attains this continuity steps beyond the illusion of separation and sees the truth, that life in all its forms is but a single stream, flowing unbroken through the infinite. Chapter 9. Life and Death. Meeting the Great Guardian. There comes a moment on the spiritual path when the seeker stands at the threshold of a great mystery, the boundary between life and death. To the unawakened, death appears as an end, a final closing of the book of existence. But to those who have cultivated inner sight, it is not an end at all. It is a transition, a doorway into another plane of reality. The physical world, so familiar and seemingly solid, is but a veil, a thin covering stretched over a vast and intricate network of unseen forces. Beyond it lies the spiritual world, where the essence of all things continues to evolve. To truly understand life, one must come to understand death, not as an abstraction, but as an experience that reveals the deeper nature of being. For the one who has advanced on the path of initiation, there is a moment of reckoning when they must meet the Great Guardian, a being who stands at the entrance to the higher planes of existence. This is not a being separate from the seeker, nor is it an external force to be conquered. The Great Guardian is the sum total of all that has been left unresolved in the soul. Every fear, every weakness, every attachment to the material world manifests in this encounter. The Guardian reflects back to the seeker the full weight of their existence, the totality of their inner being. To pass beyond this point, the seeker must be utterly prepared, for this is the final test before deep initiation. This Great Guardian is something far larger than the first guardian the aspirant meets earlier in the journey, who forces them to confront their personal fears and delusions. The full weight of human experience, the immense currents of karma, and the enormous unfolding of cause and effect that extends beyond a single lifetime are all revealed, not just the seeker's personal failings. The seeker is portrayed as a being interwoven into the fabric of all existence rather than as a solitary entity. Being unprepared to face this guardian runs the risk of being overcome by the enormity of what is exposed. At this stage, a lot of people retreat because they can no longer bear the reality of their own soul's past. There is no intellectual preparation or reading to prepare for this encounter. The profound process of self-purification cannot be replaced by any amount of theoretical knowledge. The seeker must have developed a strong sense of integrity, removing all delusions and lies. It is necessary that they have repeatedly faced their fears until nothing can frighten them. They must have acquired an inner peace, a mental and emotional clarity that enables them to remain steadfast in the face of uncertainty. The seeker must have developed reverence above all else, not as a mindless devotion, but as a deep regard for the powers that control life and death. They are able to approach the higher worlds with humility because of their reverence, knowing that enlightenment is something that must be acquired rather than something that can be taken. The spiritual world only opens to those who are genuinely prepared, to those who have cultivated themselves to the point where they can withstand the weight of more knowledge without being destroyed by it. It does not divulge its secrets to those who seek them out of curiosity or ambition. When the seeker has prepared in this way, when they have faced the great guardian with courage and sincerity, something remarkable occurs. The guardian who once seemed so imposing no longer appears as a barrier but as a guide. The very forces that once tested the seeker now become allies, helping to carry them forward into the higher realms. The soul, having been purified, is now able to perceive what was once hidden. The great veil lifts, and the seeker enters into direct communion with higher beings, with intelligences that exist beyond the limitations of physical form. These beings are not distant or separate from humanity. They have always been present, always guiding, always watching over the evolution of the human soul. But they cannot be perceived with ordinary sight, nor can they be reached by those still entangled in the lower nature. Only when the soul has been prepared, when the seeker has met the great guardian and emerged whole, can these higher beings reveal themselves. And when they do, the knowledge they impart is not given in words or concepts, but in direct experience, in a profound knowing that transcends all earthly understanding. At this stage, life and death no longer appear as opposites. The seeker understands that existence is continuous, and that consciousness does not cease when the body fades but merely shifts into another form. They see that the world of the living and the world of the dead are not separate but interwoven, that the spiritual currents which shape one also shape the other. Death loses its sting, not because it is denied or ignored, but because it is recognized for what it truly is, a passage, a transformation, a necessary step in the unfolding of the soul's journey. To meet the great guardian is to come face to face with the deepest truths of existence. It is to step beyond the illusions of the material world and into the vast luminous reality of the spirit. And for those who pass through this threshold, for those who have done the inner work and made themselves ready, the doors of higher wisdom open at last. They walk no longer as seekers in darkness, but as awakened souls, bearers of light, prepared to serve as guides for others who will one day stand where they once stood, before the guardian, on the threshold of the infinite. Conclusion. Becoming a light in the world. The journey toward higher knowledge is not a path one walks and then leaves behind. It is not a fleeting pursuit, nor is it a destination to be reached once and for all. It is a transformation, deep alchemy of the soul, where the seeker becomes something entirely new, awakened, illuminated, and attuned to the great currents of life that flow through both the seen and unseen worlds. Looking back on the path that has been traveled, one can see that the trials and revelations, the struggles and awakenings were not random. Each step, each lesson, each moment of doubt and triumph was necessary to bring the seeker to this new state of being. The fears that once loomed so large have faded, replaced by an unshakable inner knowing. The illusions that once distorted perception have been dissolved, revealing the deeper truths that pulse through all existence. Life, once bound by the limitations of the material world, now shines with meaning, with purpose, with the undeniable presence of the spiritual woven into every moment. But wisdom is not meant to be hoarded. It is not a treasure to be kept locked away, hidden from the world. The true purpose of spiritual awakening is not to retreat into solitude, but to return to life with a new vision, to become a guiding light for others still searching in the dark. What good is enlightenment if it does not lead to service? What value is spiritual perception if it does not awaken a deep compassion for the struggles of humanity? To have walked the path is to have been given a gift, not merely for oneself, but for all. Integrating this wisdom into daily life does not require grand gestures or dramatic changes. It is found in the smallest of actions, in the way one speaks, in the way one listens, in the way one moves through the world with awareness and kindness. It is found in the patience shown toward those who are still entangled in illusion, in the quiet strength that radiates from one who has faced the guardian and emerged whole. It is found in the ability to remain present, to see the sacred in the mundane, to recognize the hidden forces at work even in the most ordinary of days. True spirituality does not separate one from the world. It deepens one's engagement with it. The awakened soul does not flee from humanity but embraces it, seeing in each person a fellow traveler on the path, no matter how unaware they may be of their own journey. To live with this understanding is to become a beacon, not by force, not by persuasion, but simply by being. The light that has been kindled within shines outward, not as something imposed, but as something that naturally illuminates all that it touches. And yet, the path does not end here. There is no final enlightenment, no ultimate plateau where growth ceases. Higher knowledge is infinite, and the soul, no matter how advanced, will always have further to climb, further to refine, and further to discover. The call to seek, to evolve, to deepen one's understanding never fades. And so, even as the seeker becomes the teacher, they remain the student. Even as they offer guidance, they continue to learn. The world is in need of those who have walked this path. It is in need of those who can see beyond fear, beyond division, beyond the illusions that bind so many in suffering. It is in need of those who can stand as pillars of wisdom, of compassion, of clarity. To have stepped onto this path is to have accepted a responsibility, not just for one's own growth, but for the uplifting of all. So let the journey continue. Let the light that has been kindled burn ever brighter. Let wisdom guide the hands, the words, the heart. Let the knowledge that has been gained be put to use, not in isolation, but in the service of life itself. The greatest purpose of spiritual awakening is not merely to see the light, it is to become the light. And in doing so, to illuminate the way for others, so that they too may awaken, so that they too may remember, so that they too may step forward into the vast and infinite radiance of higher worlds.